Hello, this is Mark McLeod with the ODOT's Office of CAD Mapping Services. And in this video, we are going to show how to search ODOT's Aerial Imagery Archive using Google Earth. So first of all, we need to download the KML file for Google Earth to access the aerial imagery. And first of all, we're going to go to the ODOT main internet page. And then we're going to go to Divisions. And then we're going to click on Engineering. Our office is located in the Division of Engineering. If you go to the left panel on the left side of your browser, you're going to scroll down to where it says Public Aerial Image Request, and then that's going to take you to our web page. And on this web page, you're going to find some information about our Aerial Imagery Archive. First of all, you're going to need Google Earth Desktop in order to access it through our downloadable KML file. Next, you're actually going to need the KML. You can actually just save that as a shortcut on your desktop and then just launch Google Earth directly from that because it associates Google Earth with KML. The video link to this video tutorial, and then just some basic information about our KML. We have it structured in kind of a structured tiered level. Top level is going to be sortable through decade. The second level is going to be sorted through year, and then within year you're going to be able to sort by the date of the image itself, and then finally just the image name. So we have about we have over 500,000 individual images in our archive, and each image is represented as a single center point for the image in Google Earth, and it's being displayed as a camera icon, and you'll see it once we get into the application itself. We've enabled the Google Earth time slider, so when you load a specific decade or year, it expands the time slider so that can be dragged, so you can sort based off of like a timeline. Since we have so many points within Google Earth, we don't recommend loading the entire archive because a lot of the times it'll result in Google Earth just crashing due to the sheer amount of points that it's trying to load. So what we'd like to try to do is just keep it to like decades, even if not years. If you have specific years you're going to target for aerial imagery. So the other thing too to note is none of our aerial photos are considered ortho-rectified or ortho photos, meaning that you can load it in Google Earth and it'll overlay into Google Earth, but it won't exactly match what Google Earth's providing because all the imagery in Google Earth's been ortho-rectified. ODOT does not plan on ortho-rectifying photos. We're just allowing access to basically our entire archive that dates back starting in 1946. You can load these into different GIS applications, not just Google Earth, and they will overlay correctly because they are geolocated. But like I said, they're approximate locations. We will only allow digital copies to be available through our digital imagery unless a requested printed copy to be certified is needed, and then the contacts for that is available at the bottom here of our website. We also include an image disclaimer and copyright information if you're interested in that. So I'm going to go ahead and I've already got Google Earth installed on my computer. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the KML. And the KML is very small. It's only like 14 kilobytes. And I'm going to go to my folder here, and I've already actually downloaded it. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to put it right on my desktop here. Okay. So now I'm going to launch Google Earth just by double clicking on it. So by default, Google Earth has some startup tips here. I'm just going to close that. And when the KML loads, it actually loads it in the upper left-hand places dialog box here under the temporary places. And this is basically our KML that's loaded. So our KML with all of our decades. And as I mentioned, if you drill down into the decades, you can see the years that we have. And then, even further, when you load those years, you can drill down into the specific dates. Um, there are a couple of things I want to cover first before we get into the archive itself, and it's more pertaining to like Google Earth settings. So if you're not familiar with Google Earth, real quick, on the lower left, they have layers available. Under the layers, there are some different options. You can turn on and off border labels. As you can see, there's county and city names. You can also turn on roads if you're interested in, like landmarks for specific roads. There's some other things like that. I'm going to keep it pretty clean, so I'm just going to turn off roads and just going to use labels and borders for this demonstration. Also, under Tools, Options, there's some Google Earth settings. And I've reset my system settings to the defaults. I'm going to go ahead and change a couple of these just to kind of optimize Google Earth a little bit better so it loads imagery a little bit faster. One of those under 3D view is going to be the terrain, where it says use high quality terrain, disable for quicker resolution and faster rendering. I'm going to turn this off and apply. Everything else I'm going to leave the same. Cache, I'm going to go to memory cache size. I'm going to change this to 1024, which is the maximum cache size the Google Earth allows. And disk size, I'm going to set this to 2048. I'm going to apply that. You have also the option to reset your cache memory and clear your disk cache. This basically just clears what you have loaded. If there's, if maybe you have some errors or something like that, it's, this is something that's nice to do. If you just click on this stuff, it just refreshes it. The other thing is navigation. I'm going to turn off automatic tilt. I'm just going to have it say do not automatically tilt. Sometimes when you're zooming in, Google Earth tends to pivot the map view, so I'm going to turn that off. And then general, you can turn off like the startup tooltips if you'd like. You can assign an email specific program if you'd like. You may have already set this on your own, and that's fine if you've done that already. I'm just thinking of like new users that aren't accustomed to Google Earth itself. All right. So, I mean, other than going through every single, decade and year, just real quick, let's say I'm looking for a specific area. I can use Google Earth search function. So let's say I'm looking for something in, say, Franklin County. I can just start to key in Franklin County, click on that, search, and then Google Earth's going to, zoom me into, actually that was Franklin, Ohio. My bad. Franklin County. Franklin County. There we go. Okay, so Columbus. So you kind of get an idea here. Other things you can do is do towns, you can do addresses, zip codes. Even as an example, Ohio Stadium, because I'm going to use Ohio Stadium, the Buckeye Stadium, as some aerial imagery that we're going to search. So just kind of real quick, just being able to just navigate this stuff just by using the the search strings there. You can also, obviously, you can zoom in using Google Earth, depending on where you're at. Sometimes it's easier just to try to key in what you're looking for. All right, so loading our imagery is, it's actually pretty easy. I'm going to go ahead and load the 1940s. So I'm going to expand the 40s. And in this sidebar, when you click on the 1940s group, you'll see how this is actually loading separate KMLs for each year in the background. So it's caching from our server to your desktop. So the reason we did that was we don't have to update the KML after you get it. All we have to do is update our individual KMLs on our web server. That way, if you ever need to reload like updated imagery, you don't have to reload our KML file. So after it loads it, then you click it again, and now you can see my time slider is available. So I'm going to zoom out to the full state of Ohio, and I can do that real easy by just clicking, double clicking on this where it says ODOT Aerial. And just to kind of give you an idea, okay, so my time slider here is actually set to like 1 day, and you can see down here that I've got a couple photos for that date. Well, I can grab this by left clicking on it, and then I can drag it. So this is basically a time slider. So if I want to expand this time gap to see photos in a specific time, I can grab this left side and then I can drag it. Now you can see there's like a time gap, so all the images start to appear on this date. So as I drag this around, you're going to see the different groupings of photos, and these groupings are actually our flights. So as an example, this right here was a flight path for all these photos. So as you drag this around, you're going to basically see all the areas where we have imagery. So there's some settings that you can do in this. This little wrench right here, if you open this up, you can actually give it specific times, ending and starting, or specific, just a specific date if you'd like. You can actually zoom in on the time slider by hitting this zoom in function or zoom out function. So that's really just as far as like loading imagery. This time slider we thought was just kind of a nice little tool. So I'm going to go back to Ohio Stadium, and we're going to see basically what the first photo we have of the Buckeye Stadium is. All right, so we're zoomed in there. I'm just going to zoom out just a little bit so we can kind of see what photos we have here. I'm going to start with my slider and I'm going to start dragging. All right, so there's our first photo. And if you actually hover over the camera icon, left click it, then you're actually going to see all of our metadata that we have associated with that single image. So our flight number, our strip number, our negative, and these were all, they were based off of film from years ago. And our image name, the date of the image, 1947 was essentially, it looks like the first image we have of Ohio Stadium. And then we also, I mentioned we have a projection associated with that, so if you needed to load it in like a GIS application. And we have the thumbnail. And then we have some link options, down in this lower portion of our attribute window. So Google Earth is essentially load to Google Earth. So if I click on that, you'll notice that you see the points of the image, and it's going to pull that image and stream it into Google Earth as an overlay. So now I have my image here highlighted. I can zoom in here and I can actually see Ohio Stadium from 1947 and how different it looks from today. Now, one of the nice little features here is over here in the left panel, there's this icon next to the Find My Places, and it's the opacity adjustment. So I can click this image and then I can grab this opacity adjustment and drag this, and I can actually make that image transparent so I can see the Google Earth imagery underneath of it. So I can see, really some major changes. Another thing too is if I want to turn this off, I can just turn this off and say, maybe I can come up over here and click this image and load this image. And as you can see, it's taking that same image and loading it in that, kind of that same space. So I can come through here and I can load various images. I can turn them on and off. I could turn one on and then adjust the opacity here. Another kind of cool thing is when it loads this image, it names it what the image name is, but you can actually go in and you can say, well, I know I don't want this image because the horseshoe is not quite centered on this image, so I'm going to delete this one. And this image I'm going to use, and I'm just going to call it, Ohio Stadium from 1947. So by default, it uses the image name, but you can have that and you can keep that if you want to, or you can rename it if you like. And then you can actually save these if you want to in the KML itself. That way they're still preloaded when you open the KML back up. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the 40s and turn this one off. And I'm going to go to the 1950s, and then obviously in the 1950s we've got imagery loaded for every year. So I'm going to go ahead and hit 1950s. Now, depending on the decade, it may take a little bit longer to load this because we have, like I said, we have hundreds of thousands of images. So as you can see, 1950 to 1954 is loaded, but it's still loading 55 to 59. So I'm going to wait until all those points are loaded. And having a good, obviously, internet connection is also kind of a key thing. Wi-Fi, depending on the Wi-Fi signal and stuff like that, sometimes that might take a little bit longer. Okay, we're down to 1 now. 1960s, I think, is the decade where we have the most imagery for the state of Ohio. Okay, so now we got everything loaded. So now I'm going to click on 1950, and now you've seen it flash, and now all of the imagery has been loaded for that decade. So I can come up into my slider, I can grab here, and then I can give me like a time slot. And now if I come up here, I can double click and I can see, the imagery for the whole state of Ohio. And I can drag this to, kind of see where those images are. Okay. Go back down here to the shoe. And it looks like we have some images in 1950-ish, it looks like. Click on this one. Okay, so this is from 1950. Now I'm going to go ahead and load this into Google Earth. Okay, so this is a good example. So obviously the shoe here is not the image has been rotated incorrectly, and that's something that when you're editing and manipulating over 500,000 images, there's some images depending on how our algorithms were when we rotated our imagery, because everything's film based, some of this stuff didn't get rotated correctly. So that was one of the things that we wanted to add to our metadata. So if you come in here and click on this, obviously you can see that, hey, this thing needs to be rotated so it's correct. Okay, well that's great. How do we get that information? Well, we've actually built in a reporting tool for our attributes. So if I click this, you'll notice down here at the bottom it says report an image issue. So if you click the report an image issue, we have a predefined form that auto fills the image name and the date of the image for us, and then all you need to do is give some options here for issues with the image. So in this case, the image is not rotated correctly, so I'm gonna select that. It's in the right location. Thumbnails seem to be working fine. Image links seem to be working fine. We have another option here too, so if you want to add a comment or something, you're more than welcome to. And then submit, and then that's it. And then that notifies our office, so we can go back in and we can correct this. So on this one, I'm going to rename. I'm going to rename this one. And that didn't work, did it? Ohio Stadium 1950. So now you can kind of turn on, there's 1940 and 1950. Now, the other thing too is let's say, oh, okay, this is great, but I need the photo. I want the photo on my computer for, whatever purposes I need to use it for. I can click the camera, and then on the right side over here, there's a download button. If I click download, it's actually going to go to our website, and it's going to download the TIFF image directly to my computer. And then I can actually, just open that in just a Windows regular photo viewer. Like I said, these images, they have geolocated information in it. So if you wanted to use it like in a GIS application, that is possible. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go to some of our later imagery in the 2010s. I'm going to load those. I'm going to see some of the latest photos we have for Horseshoe Stadium now. Now, most of the photos from 2010 and forward are going to be digital photos that we've taken with our DNC camera. So they're not film based, they're actual digital based. A lot of the other photos dating back to the 1946 is all film based. All right, we're going to load the 2010s decade, and we're going to adjust our time slider. And immediately we see that we've definitely got some photos through here. Let's see what we can find if there's the latest photo. Okay, looks like that's going to be the latest one for us. All right, zoom in here. This was from 2011. So I'm going to load this into Google Earth. And I mentioned that these were digital images, so these images are a little bit larger. And there it is. And as I said before, you can change the transparency here. Thank you for tuning in to our video tutorial for using the ODOT Aerial Imagery Archive. Please like and share this video and consider subscribing to our YouTube channel for more video content.